It's the direct upgrade to the ever-popular saber-toothed tiger-type Smilodon, and also known notably for his role in the rather controversial Season 3 of the Metabots anime. It is STG01 Excize, coming to the game with a kit of Shoot Trap, Charge Claw, Hammer, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Climber, which grants S rank to mountainous terrains in addition to the leg standard matches. So honestly, it is really nice to finally at long last see this long-lost relative of the STG family finally make his grand debut, or rather re-debut rather, in the games, as prior to this point he only went live and only came in Metarot 3 and 4 roughly. Shoot Trap, of course, we've seen it before, nothing special, is a setup-based skill which allows Excize to lay a passive-aggressive plant on the field that will damage any foes that choose to use shooting-based attacks a set number of times, of course, until the trap expires. So definitely very solid for that passive aggression all the same. Charge Claw, we've seen only one other time before, and that was on the Digimon collaboration model Grey Wars, but simply to go over it, Charge Claw is a scattered AoE, much like its standard counterpart Basic Claw, but the difference is you will also get a damage bonus relative to the percentage of your Metaforce charge, but also consume a small amount of it upon the use of your move. So definitely very good for more aggressive scattered AoE damage, which kind of finalizes and settles Excize's dominant role pretty solidly, in addition of course to having Basic Hammer, which is your full AoE, which damages all parts equally and spreads the total damage across all active parts on the target. But honestly, just looking at him, he is pretty well balanced in what he does offer. About 3,800 HP for the head, just shy of about 3,100, 3,050 per arm, almost 3,600 per his legs, and his leg stats are honestly pretty nice too. Just a hair squishy on that shoot resist at 742, but with a melee resist of 1243, an evade of almost 1100, and a mobility of 891, he is definitely going to be packing a lot of heat and a lot of speed without really falling back or falling behind on anything compared to most other bots that we see out there currently. Base power also is pretty nice too, even with them being AoE or scattered AoE. Success rate, of course, at 1266 means his claw is probably almost never going to miss, unless in the really off chance. His heat and cool stats are a little lower than to be desired, probably closer to higher end parts that you'd see or higher damage parts, but he can make up for this pretty easily, especially given that he has not just a biped leg for pretty overall solid coverage across all terrains, but he also has one that gives him an additional S rank on a rather unique terrain that bipeds are okay on at best, but not the greatest. For this reason, I do have to rate him as a pure set score, a pretty solid 9 out of 10 for what he offers. But in addition to this, Excize is also capable of meta change, where he changes his kit up ever so slightly, but enough to really start amping up the heat and the power with this, trading in his dominant AoE and collateral damage role for a more focused role, for a more focused and pierce damage role. In this form, he exchanges his Shoot Trap for Melee Trap, which of course offers the same kind of coverage and passive aggression, but instead offering it to melee-based fighters instead. And trading out Claw and Hammer, he gets Charge Blade and Pile for that additional damage bonus to your Metaforce gauge, much akin to how Charge Claw works, but of course Pile for your rather basic conventional damage with pierce damage on top of that. In addition, he also changes his leg type from biped to multi, and his leg ability to land cruiser, which once again gives him another passive S-rank terrain mastery, but this time giving it to the grasslands terrain instead of the mountainous that the climber ability gets him. In this mode, he is definitely amping up his power just a little bit. Charge Blade power, of course, at about a base of 1758 is really nice. Pile, of course, at base 14, almost 1500 is pretty solid for what it offers and what it asks and what you see in most other bots that do offer Pile. His leg stats do go up significantly where they do matter the most, especially with his shoot resist, where he was maybe like mid-high 700s before. Now he's a little closer to where you want to be if you are going to be going off against long-range combatants. His melee resist does go up just a little bit, just to kind of bolster what he already has. His evade does go up rather significantly at closer to about 1200 in this case. Mobility goes up just by a hair too, as he was already pretty much in the mid to high 800s as well at that point, so not a major significant change from here. The overall change, of course, is with his kit, changing from AoE to dedicated melee damage, which honestly makes him very well balanced and very conventional for what he offers as your all-around melee fighter, ranging from your conventional melee to your dedicated melee nuker. In this case, he does honestly kind of trade off this balance for a little bit lower of his success stats. As you see here, about 800 for his charge blade, and it's about 610 for his pile, meaning he may not be as accurate while in this mode, but he honestly trades off for it fantastically across the board. In this case, if you notice, none of his skills in change mode require charge or metaphors to use, meaning he's free to shift back and forth more or less as he pleases, based on whatever the situation on hand is. For this reason, like I said, I do have to rate him a very solid 9 out of 10 for his overall fantastic coverage on the field as your dedicated melee fighter for what he can offer. Between, like I mentioned, your dedicated AoE damage to your dedicated pierce and your focus damage, depending on which form you change into. As mixed parts, I have to rate him just a hair lower, and it was really hard to rate him this lower, but I had to do it for the sake of balance at an 8 out of 10. So his parts are still fantastic across the board for what they offer, but given that a lot of Excize's main priority comes from using him as a pure set, you are going to be missing out on a lot of the power that he can wield if you choose to mix his parts up or use them separately. But all the same, he is still packing a lot of very, very solid base stats and base kit that you can use just about anywhere very conventionally and very easily.